Okay, so private practice versus teleradiology. I know there's a lot of stuff out there about, teleradiology, especially corporate teleradiology is really bad and private practice is really good. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that nothing is really bad or really good. Nothing is intrinsically bad or good. It's all just different variations of the same theme. And really, you have to figure out for yourself what makes sense. I think one way to make sense of a situation is to do math, really simple, basic math. And I'm just going to show you kind of how to calculate your hourly compensation. All right, so let's say that you're evaluating a typical private practice offering, first year position, on a coast. Typical offer would be something like $350,000 a year and 8 weeks vacation. Now, I've seen people get offered less. I've seen there be less vacation, but let's just start with this. I think this is a pretty reasonable offer to work in, say, New York or LA or something like this. You make about $350,000 a year as a radiologist and 8 weeks of vacation. So how do you figure out your hourly compensation? So first you got to figure out how many working days in the year there are. So there's about 260 working days. You can take out your vacation days. So 8 weeks of vacation is 40 days. So you're down to 220, but then you got to add back in your call. Private practice call is pretty brutal. It's probably going to be 1 weekend a month. So that's 24 days. So you can add that back in. You'll get 244 days. All right. So now you know the number of days that you're working. How many hours in a day are you working? Now, typically you're working from 9 to 5. You're working from 8 to 5. So that's a 9-hour day. Keep in mind, if you're commuting, in theory, you might as well throw that in. Time that you're spending on the road is time that you're not working. You're not producing. You're using that time to get to the place where you can produce work. So again, in my mind, I would consider that as part of the hours that you spend working. So if you are working 8 to 5, working 9 hours, you probably, again, in a coastal area, probably spend an hour commuting each way. So now you're up to 11 hours per day. Also, you have to spend in some time getting ready in the morning. So let's just say you're really fast at getting ready. In order to get to work at 8, you have to leave at 7. Let's say you get up at 6:30. All right, get up at 6:30, brush your teeth, shower, put on your Gucci suit, and get to work, right? So basically you're looking at about 11.5 hours a day that you're doing work, basically at work or in the process of getting to work in order to generate that income. So we had 244 days. We can multiply that by 11.5 hours. So we're at 2806 hours in the year that you're working. So let's divide that out by 350,000 divided by 2806. So we're looking at about $125 an hour. Now, how does that compare? That's actually really, really low. There's probably nurses that can make that amount. Certainly primary care doctors make that amount. Again, per hour. How do you use that to evaluate a teleradiology job? Now, again, the teleradiology job is going to be different. You're going to be working backwards in a sense. You get the rates per case, and you have to figure out how many cases you can read per hour. Now, even the most cutthroat, most corporate, most profit maximizing teleradiology company will probably pay you about $20 per RVU. So if you do the math on that, as long as you can read 6 RVUs an hour, you'd be making about $120 an hour. You'd be making roughly what you'd make signing up for this private practice offer. So again, if you could do 6 RVUs an hour, you'd be making about $120 an hour. And that would match that, again, on an hourly basis. And then you could decide how many hours in the year you wanted to work. Maybe you want to work that 2,800 number, maybe more, maybe less. But again, your compensation will be more. Something to keep in mind, let's say you go from reading 6 RVUs an hour to reading 8 RVUs an hour. Well, now you actually just made substantially more. If you keep up that rate, you would totally beat out this private practice offer again per hour. Now, what are some of the things that we're not discussing? Well, teleradiology is not the same. Teleradiology is after hours. So whereas in the private practice job, you can work from 8 to 5, in teleradiology, you're going to have to work off hours. That could be, noon to 10. It could even be something like, say, 5 to midnight or a little after midnight. It could even be overnight. Overnight, again, I personally wouldn't do it, but some people do. Just saying that is part of the equation too. You would be working those hours overnight, and that could affect, again, your productivity. It could affect your lifestyle. So again, point of this video is just to do some basic math. Teleradiology, private practice, neither one is inherently good or inherently bad. Different ways to do the same thing, which is radiology. I think, use math, calculate your hourly rate. If you're looking at a teleradiology practice and they're offering you rates and you're trying to figure out how much you do per hour, keep in mind that, the bar to beat, to equate to typical private practice offer, salary offer is really not that high. Just some food for thought. That's what I'm going to do.